Hi and welcome to the Malat cookery channel. So today I want to show you how to make a type of milk bread, and the recipe comes from a rationing book during the Second World War. Right, so I'm outside today clearing out one of the small sheds that we have, and I managed to find this, which is actually a stirrup pump which was given to households in the UK in the Second World War that had things called Anderson shelters which protected them from bombing, and this was used as part of a kit to try and get water from the Anderson shelter if it ever flooded. The reason I'm showing you that is because when our children were a lot smaller, they did a project which most children in the UK do with regard to the Second World War, learning about how families coped during the war. And part of that project was a baking class, and the thing that they had to try and bake was a milk bread using milk powder and egg powder if they could get it, because that was part of the rationing. Now, I couldn't find egg powder, but I did find milk powder. We made this recipe again for the school project and it came out absolutely delicious. So finding this today brought back those memories, and I want to try and replicate that particular recipe again. So today we're making a milk bread using powdered milk, and this recipe, as I said, was taken from a ration book during the Second World War. As usual, a full list of ingredients will be given at the end of the video, so let's have a look at those ingredients now and anything else we're going to need for today. So the ingredients for today, I've got 500 grams of bread flour, we've got 2 heaped tablespoons of dried skimmed milk, so milk powder. I've got 2 7-gram sachets of easy bake or dried yeast, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 1 medium free range egg which has been beaten, and 350 millilitres of lukewarm water. So our first job is to place the yeast and the sugar into our lukewarm water. Just give that a stir, and then I'm going to leave this now for about 10 minutes just so that the yeast starts to activate. So I'm going to be mixing this bread by hand. So in a very large mixing bowl I've got the flour, add in all of the rest of the dry ingredients, so the powdered milk, the salt, and just give that a good stir just to make sure that everything is mixed in well. Next thing to do is to add the egg, and again mix that in. So we then start to add our yeast mixture just a little bit at a time. I'm going to go as far as I can do with a spoon, and then I'm afraid it's time to get your hands dirty, or at least one of your hands. So this is going to be a fairly hydrated dough, so plenty of water content, so it's going to be quite sticky. Okay, so that's about as far as I can go with the spoon. So just get in there with your hands and just mix this as much as you can. So next thing, I just want some flour onto a clean work surface and just scoop the dough out. But don't panic, it's clinging to your fingers, it will come off eventually. We get as much of this dough out of the bowl as possible. We just want to start bringing this together, and if you need any more flour, just add that to the work surface. Okay, so once you get it to this sort of stage where you've got most of the dough off your hands, and just use a little bit of flour to do that. don't add any more flour now to the dough itself. So we just want to basically knead the dough. You can just put a little bit of flour onto your hands though, just to make it more workable. So this dough has now become quite manageable, so I'm going to be kneading this now for 10 minutes, just pushing it out and stretching it, and then I'll show you what we do from there. Okay, so once you get the dough to this sort of stage where it's still quite difficult to handle, but you've been able to knead it, we've taken our bowl, cleaned the bowl out and placed a little bit of oil in the bottom of the bowl, just to make sure this dough doesn't stick. So we take our dough now, just place the dough into the centre of the bowl. I'm going to cover this with cling film or food wrap, leave it in a warm part of the house until the dough doubles in size. Okay, so this is our dough. We'll actually let this go on a little bit too long, got sidetracked. So it's more than doubled in size. So the next thing to do is we're just going to get a little bit of flour on my hands because it'll still be really tacky, and I'm going to place it onto the work surface, and lightly floured work surface. Right, so this is our dough. Lots of elasticity in that dough. Just been handling the dough a little bit just to knock it back, get most of the large air bubbles out. So I'm going to be dividing this dough into 6 equal parts. Once I've done that, I'll come back and I'll show you the next step. So once we've divided the dough, I've got a baking tray with some greaseproof paper in the bottom. Take our piece of dough, or each piece of dough, and I've just lightly floured my hands. Just going to pass the dough through my thumb and forefinger just to create some surface tension. Just keep pushing it up from underneath until we get to that. Place that onto our greaseproof paper and then move on to the second one. A little bit more flour. So we just shape the dough and just push that up, squeezing your thumb and index finger in together while you're pushing up the dough from underneath. So we create this almost like a balloon shape. Second one, and then just do that obviously with all of the pieces. Now, so once I've got all the dough shaped, I'm just going to cover this with a clean tea towel, leave it to stand one part of the house for about 15 minutes. Going to be turning the oven on 190 degrees centigrade, and as soon as the oven gets up to temperature, these are going to go into the centre of the oven and they're going to bake for about 25 minutes. Okay, so I've popped back outside in the freezing cold from that warm kitchen just to finish off this video. So there you go, a type of milk bread, really delicious, following that rations recipe, but the thing is I couldn't use was powdered egg. I would like to try this recipe with powdered egg, but when I looked online it seems to be like a survivalist type of ingredient now, and it's quite expensive. But if you know where to get powdered egg from in the UK, which is relatively cheap, then please put a comment under the video and I'll certainly have a look at that. As usual, if you've enjoyed this particular video, hit the like button, and thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.